Cool. Let's see CoolJoe lock in his legend, Scarlet, of all things.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I've seen.
I now suddenly remember who CoolJoe is.
Yep.
All it took was that Scarlet Lincoln.
The Black Scarlet. Yep. All right. Cool. So CoolJoe plays a fairly throw heavy game, if I remember correctly. Compute.
Spear.
Really solid weapon play.
I see.
But we're into it.
So CoolJoe tosses the first bomb, Compute finding the spear and actually punches with the neutral, but CoolJoe's actually finding a hammer, gets hit by his downlight sider, however, Compute tries to punch with an air, doesn't quite work out. CoolJoe still finding trouble landing anything with weapons, but gets that down air. Both players not really finding any strings.
Yeah, you're gonna see Compute fish for these downlight stairs a ton. Like, his entire game plan relies on hitting those.
And then
so far it's been working pretty good.
And then I'm assuming he tries to execute with the Sarah no matter what weapon he's using. Downlight sider once again. Weapon toss. Sends him into the red. CoolJoe finds a recovery. Compute trying to hold on to the axe. He goes for that GC down stick, one of my favorite moves with Brynn. Goes for a down stick of his own from CoolJoe and a weapon toss into CoolJoe's face. CoolJoe's near at kill percent, but like, so is Brynn. Wow! Oh. Did he just side air him into the weapon?
Yeah,
so flashy.
CoolJoe side airs Compute into his weapon toss to finish him off. Very interesting way to kill.
Ooh, goes for the recovery on the lance, doesn't get punished by the spear, and actually just immediately goes on the stage with a side air, tries to punish with a dodge forward into neutral light. Compute, however, ready to go for a D-light side air, doesn't connect, however, and the hammer toss doesn't hit Compute either, but CoolJoe still has control over the stage. He's tossing his hammer into his face, but keeps picking it back up, finds the lance, holds onto the lance, tosses it aside, not going for the unarmed combo that Scarlets are known for, and gets punished by a side stick as he lands.
Yep. Really good read by Compute. You don't usually see Brynn's signatures getting much use, but that was a pretty good read. But he's struggling on the early stages of the stock. Can't seem to find any hits.
Ooh, Scarlet holds onto the hammer, gets hit by that D-light sider. Compute sticking almost primarily with the spear in this matchup. Goes to the neutral light. CoolJoe hanging onto the side. Brynn gets hit by that sider as he gets back onto the stage, finds the lance, goes for a down sig, not really going for any other lance signature. And a neutral light actually punishes Compute for trying to get back on the stage. Tosses his weapon in, goes for a side air, but CoolJoe's ready to punch with a side light recovery, sends Compute flying, dodges outside of the weapon, and Compute unarmed once again and nearing kill percent. There's that side light recovery. That kills him off the top. Bread and butter from CoolJoe, and Compute struggling to get anything onto CoolJoe right now.
Yeah, you know, I really expected Compute to pull out the axe. The spear does struggle versus lance in this matchup. It just has more range, and the whole thing you want to do with spear generally is just outrange your opponent. But Compute doesn't seem very comfortable with the axe, which surprises me. He's you see he's like mistiming these dares. He's sending him out too early. He's not even going for it very much. He's going for mostly stairs, but
he did get a little bit of damage into CoolJoe there. There's the D-light to punish CoolJoe for being in the air. Goes in for a chase dodge into his sider, but doesn't connect and tosses his axe away. Holds onto the spear once again. And CoolJoe, I feel like this is where he's most comfortable, obviously, being able to outrange the spear with said weapon. Goes for another down stick, just using that to nullify any ground approaches from Compute. Goes in for a side light or a side air and gets hit by a side air again. Compute is just getting hit by moves and not going for anything in return. CoolJoe nearly loses his stock there, but barely clings to the ledge of shipwreck. And both players find themselves in the orange, but CoolJoe with the stock lead.
Yeah, Compute is having a lot of troubles figuring out how to kill CoolJoe right now. He's getting bodied when he has the spear against the lance.
Oh
and that's
no!
Really not helping. He's dead.
He wasn't jumping off the stage. He was jumping in the air. Went for a down air off the side of the stage and just killed himself. Like, he wasn't going to make it back regardless of that weapon toss.
So he ends up getting two-stocked.
And despite the favor of originally going to Compute, CoolJoe shows an impressive performance with the Scarlet, not even going for unarmed weapon toss combos or whatever, just showing really solid play with the lance.
Yeah, like, I feel like if Compute doesn't pick up and show us why he's a high tier player with the axe, it's gonna be CoolJoe's set to 2-0. Like, Compute needs to use his axe better. Like, he did pick it up towards the end of the game, and he was like trading equally with Joe, but you can't just trade equally in this game because that's gonna be a 50-50. You need to show your dominance. Like, and I say axe because his spear gameplay just hasn't been enough to break the lance. Like, the lance just has an inherent advantage against the spear.
Yeah, and like you just said, it's not necessarily a fault of the player using the spear, it's a fault of the matchup. Like, when it comes to this game, it's more important to think about weapon matchups than it is legend matchups, and when you got spear versus lance, it's just going to be really 60-40 at the most. Like, you're not going to be having favorable trades on that unless you're severely outplaying your opponent, which isn't happening here. As you can see, CoolJoe is just putting so much damage on the compute as he struggles to find anything. All weapons are off the stage, and CoolJoe holds onto the hammer, is just trying to get any kind of damage in on compute as he sits around unarmed. He gets hit by a sider. Weapon toss forces him to go high. He doesn't have his dodge, but he gets above him, and compute tosses the mine onto the stage.
Yeah, I mean, CoolJoe has a huge lead right now, compute in the red, and he's barely taking any damage in return. But, you know, it's funny because I actually consider the Axe having one of the best matchups against Lance, whereas Spear maybe has one of the worst.
And I would agree with that. So it's interesting to see compute being so favorable towards the Spear right now. Because that weapon toss goes for a ground pound possibly? No, CoolJoe makes it back, and despite all the damage that CoolJoe got, Compute's slowly crawling his way back into this game. Goes for a D-Light once again. None of them are really connecting, but CoolJoe's not finding any kill moves on the Compute. And there's the side sig, gets punched by the side light. Dodge is gone, but the recovery stops CoolJoe from getting his ground pound onto him, and it's evened up, red to red. There's a D-Light Cider. CoolJoe's sent flying. The weapon toss isn't quite in range to punish CoolJoe for getting back to the stage. Compute holds onto the axe. There's the Cider. That'll end it. Takes the first stock.
Yeah, Compute gets the first stock. Despite getting absolutely bodied for the first minute of this game, CoolJoe just couldn't find the kill. He does find the return kill, but it's a little too late. He's already on 2 stocks himself. So we have an even game here, despite CoolJoe's massive advantage at the start.
CoolJoe goes in for a down sig, finds that down air into neutral light, puts some damage onto Compute, but Compute's still holding onto the spear, but you're seeing it. There's that range. He goes for a neutral light, and CoolJoe is just hitting him outside of the hitboxes of the spear, but there's a side light and a cider. Ooh, lands to go for a down light follow-up. Finds that pogo stick. CoolJoe tosses hammer aside, wants to use that advantage that he has with the lance. Goes for the cider. Compute just poking him on the head, and he actually gets hit by one of those down sigs that CoolJoe's just been using to nullify his ground play. CoolJoe goes for the weapon. Compute's ready to punish. Down light cider. It's rather even.
Yeah, so Compute's starting to figure it out. Lance, for those of you who struggle against Lance, Lance is very bad at... Oh, Compute's dead. But Lance is very bad at hitting above them quickly. Like, Nair's the only option they have that covers above them. And it comes out, like, really slowly. So you see Compute, he is sticking with this spear, but he's doing it more intelligently. He's going for dares, he's going for falling Nairs. He's going for stuff that will... Like, we're going to see it right here, right? Like, he's looking for the fall down Nair, but he doesn't commit to it. You see how he's playing above CoolJoe. And that's going to be the only way he can get in on this Lance. Like, his typical dodge and downlight stuff doesn't really work against a Lance.
Yeah, especially with how well CoolJoe's using Scarlet's down sig. That completely destroys any dodge and play whatsoever. Hits him with that side air, goes in for another side air. Compute tries to land with the neutral air, but neither quite works out. The D-Light comes out from Compute, but it's not connecting to CoolJoe, and he tosses his spear into his face, but he's not finding these signature executes, he's not finding these side air executes. He needs to toss this spear side and play with the axe, because that's the only stock that he's been able to get so far. There's the axe, goes for a side air, doesn't connect, and that GC down sig, very greedy, gets punched by weapon toss into a ground pound. That's another 2 stock.
Compute's out. 2 stocked twice in a row? I mean, CoolJoe just owned that game. Like,